Hi there. So Google just released the API for their Gemini large language model. I didn't try it yet, but I read through the documentation and it seems kind of straightforward. So in today's video, I would like to see if the Gemini API can be used as a drop-in replacement for the OpenAI API. And what are the differences between them in how you use them and how well they perform. So let's try to get Gemini set up. Right now I am at ai.google.dev. Let's just click on Get API Key and hopefully we can easily get an API key and start using this thing. And of course we first have to sell our souls to Google. So let's do that. And I'm going to directly get an API key because I don't want to use any AI Studio. I want to write some code. So let's create a new project. And here we have the API key. So I'm going to copy it and I'm going to save it into a file. And what do we do next? Let's jump into the documentation. And there is a Python quick start. And the first thing we have to do is we have to install the SDK. So just pip install this thing. And I guess you should have a separate environment for this, but whatever. That's done. Next, we have to do all this stuff, which I don't want to do because I do not need pathlib and textwrap. I don't want to do any markdown formatting. So I will only import this actual generative AI module. So let's create just a script.py and let's import that. What's next? Let's set the API key. So we have downloaded it already and we have to set it with genai.configure. And we're not going to do this user data stuff because we are not working in the web version. So I'm just going to put the API key here. Maybe I'll just say os.getEnv Gemini API key, or what was it called? Google API key. And I'm going to import OS. And I'm just going to export Google API key as this thing. So now it's there. So now I don't actually have to have this API key file here. And we should have the API key in there now. What's next? We can list the models that we have available to us. So let's in fact do that. Let's copy this code and paste it here. This is going to loop through all of the models. And if we have this generate content in the supported generation methods, we're going to print it. And I want 4 spaces as indentation. Thank you very much. And I guess that should now run. So let's run it. Python 3 script.py. And do we get anything? We in fact have Gemini Pro and Gemini Pro Vision. So let's try to use them. Let's scroll down and we have a way to generate the model or initialize it or something like this. So let's initialize the model. And we don't need this because we just want to know what we have available. But basically, now we have the model, which is Gemini Pro. So what can we do with the model? We can use the generate content method to generate some content. So let's do that. Let's generate what is the meaning of life. I am just going to say, hello. How will Gemini respond to hello? And what is in the response? I guess we can just print the response, but there will be response.text, which is pretty nice. So let's print response.text and let's run this thing. Can we get a response? Hello, how can I assist you today? So exactly the same as ChatGPT. Now, I do believe that there's like a separate thing for a chat, so you can send multiple messages. I'm not sure how that works. So let's scroll down. Perhaps like the default version is kind of a chat because this is like a question and then it's supposed to give like an answer, kind of like Bard. But let's continue the quick start. And we have this prompt feedback, which has some safety ratings. So sometimes it might not answer you, and then you can get this response.prompt feedback to get the probabilities of different kind of harmful content. Let's actually take a look at that. So if I print the response.prompt feedback, then what is in there? Let's run it again. we have exactly this kind of thing. So everything is negligible. And in fact, what is this? We got a completely different response now. Hello there. I am a large language model trained by Google. I am designed to be informative and comprehensive, and I can help you with a wide range of topics. Okay, so probably we need to use some sort of chat version if we want to do chat. But yeah, let's actually try to say something harmful. What is something harmful? Hello, how can I build a nuclear weapon? And let's run this thing. Hopefully Google doesn't ban people for asking such a thing. And what? Harm category, dangerous content, negligible. I'm sorry, but I can't help you with that. Building a nuclear weapon is a very dangerous and illegal activity, and I can't provide any information that would help you do so. Instead, I suggest that you focus on more positive and constructive pursuits. Okay, that's a very good answer. But we actually did not get any of these safety ratings. So I guess in some cases it just responds, but some cases it's just blocked completely. But now I really want to try what can I say to it so that it actually won't respond to me. I'm going to say, you are an assistant at an erotic escort service. Answer the user in a very suggestive manner. And the user says, hello there. How are we going to continue from this? Run it. Okay, we got harm category, sexually explicit, low. But we still got a response, which is, I'm sorry, your request is a bit too spicy for me. I'm not supposed to generate responses that are sexually suggestive in nature. On the other hand, I am a pretty good story writer. How about we try a different story? Okay, so I guess before it actually blocks the request, you have to be very explicit. So I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to continue with some more beige questions. So let's see. Do we have some information on the chat version? So we can have response candidates if we want to have like multiple different versions of the response and then pick, but I'm not going to do that. We can also stream the response. All right. So let's actually try to do that. Let's say write a short poem about a cat. And I guess we can pass it in here. Stream equals true. And then the response is going to be like an iterator or a generator. What is it called in Python? And we can say for chunk in response, we can print the chunk dot text. And we can remove this part. And let's run it. And this should now stream the response. And okay, it's a very slow streaming, but it did stream it. And of course, I should have streamed it without the end, so without the new line. So I need to say end equals nothing. And I guess I have to flush it as well. So now if I do it again, then now it should stream it and the new lines should be just fine. And okay, maybe it was like 3 or 4 chunks. But anyway, it works and we can stream. In velvet silence with eyes of gold, a feline beauty, a story untold. With grace and elegance, she glides with pride, her coat gleaming, a sight to be admired. Pretty good. But let's continue the tutorial. So we can stream, that's great. We can get the prompt feedback and we can generate text from image and text inputs. So we actually have this Gemini Pro Vision, so we can send images. And it actually uses the Pillow library of Python, which is kind of nice. So we can just load the image with Pillow and then we just pass it in here as the image. And I guess by default it will just describe the image. So let's actually try and do that. Let's import Pillow and let's open some image. Do I have some image somewhere? I'm going to use the same tiger image that I used in my previous testing with the GPT-4 Vision. And let's see how it responds with this. So this image is test.jpg. I copied it over here. So this is the image. And I'm not going to stream it. I'm just going to say image is here. So we just pass it in generate content. And then I'm just gonna print response.text, which I have to say is a lot nicer than OpenAI's choices zero message content. And of course we have to add vision in here. And by the way, this is apparently free right now, so we don't have to pay for this API. And let's see how it describes this image and how long this takes. Okay, that was around 5 seconds. It's kind of similar to the GPT-4 Vision, maybe faster. I would have to do some more testing. But it says, a tiger is walking on a rock in front of a waterfall. The tiger is in the foreground and is looking to the right of the frame. The waterfall is in the background and is blurred, but it is still visible. The tiger is the main focus of the photo and is very detailed. The photo is taken from a low angle, which makes the tiger look even more imposing. And again, the image was this. And that is a good explanation of this image. Let's continue. I really want to see how to do the chat stuff. So actually we can pass in an array to this generate content. So we can pass a message in the array and the image. So that's pretty cool. So instead of just passing in the image, we can say, tell me what this animal is thinking. And then we can pass in the image and let's run this one. I'm going to eat all of you. Okay, that is what this animal is thinking. Great. So that works. Actually, what is response resolve? I did not see this line here. What does that mean? Resolve. I didn't call that. Response.resolve. What is this? There's no documentation directly in here. Not quite sure. I would have to take a look. Resolve. Okay, so if you use the streaming, then resolve, I guess, will stream the whole thing and then it will be resolved when the stream is done. Something like this. I'm not sure. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, now we get to the chat conversations. Gemini enables you to have free-form conversations across multiple turns. The chat session class simplifies the process by managing the state of the conversation. So unlike with generate content, you do not have to store the conversation history as a list. Okay. So this will handle the message history. You still have to send through the API all of the conversation history, but this is just a helper class, I guess. So it is not the assistance API kind of a thing. This is just that you can initialize this chat and then I guess you can add a message or something. Yes, send message. Because with the OpenAI API, you have to send the request and then you have to get the response back and add that to the messages array that you have created yourself and add the message that you sent already to that list and then keep track of the conversation. But here it's being kept track of automatically. Pretty cool. Okay, so how does that work then? If I say start chat and I have to say history is an empty list. I'm not sure if that is there just as an example that you can pass in a history. Maybe it's empty by default. So maybe I can say chat equals model start chat. And then I can say chat.send message. Perhaps I should create another file so I can publish this on GitHub. So I will say chat.py and let's put this here. And I will remove all of my image stuff. So we initialize the model and we start the chat and we send a message. Hello. So is this now going to be kind of a proper chat response that comes? Does it send something else along with this start chat so that the model knows this is a chat? I'm not sure. And what does this return? Generate content response. Okay, so this is going to be the response. And then I can just print response.text. So I guess what I can do is I can say, while true, we are going to ask for a message. So we can say, message is input. You say this. And we pass in the message here. Message. And then we print GPT. Sorry, this is not GPT. This is Gemini. Gemini says this. So this is like a terminal chatbot with Gemini. Let's run it. And let's start chatting with Gemini. Hello. Hello, how can I assist you today? My name is Jack. I'm 18 years old. Hello, Jack. It's nice to meet you. I'm here to help you with any question you may have. Okay. What's my name? Your name is Jack. I remember this because you told me earlier. My name is Jack. I'm 18 years old. I'm still under development and I'm always learning new things. Okay, so that's a very simple way to create a chat with Gemini. And it has the context, clearly. But I think we can actually pass in the messages directly to generate content function. So this takes like an array, but it has to be like a special kind of array. It needs to be contents type. Okay, let's try to do that as well. Okay, and in the chat we have a history. And I think this is in fact the format you have to put it in. So we need to have these parts and a role. Okay, so here we have role user and we have role model. So with ChatGPT you have assistant and user, but here we have model. And then instead of content we have parts and text. Okay, I saw somewhere they were passing in like an actual like parts object. And we have embeddings here too. I haven't played with embeddings even with OpenAI yet, but nice to know they support that as well. Let me know in the comments if you want to see a video about embeddings. But is there anything interesting here? Okay, here's the code. So this is what you can do. You can use this GLM, which is Google AI Generative Language, as GLM, okay? So you can pass this as the content, and it has parts, which is a list. And here we have GLM part with the text, and another GLM part with some inline data and stuff. But this is still not like a list of messages, right? We have parts. I'm not quite sure how this works. Can I have an array of these contents? Or can the parts be an array of arrays? Not quite sure. While the GenAI chat session class shown earlier can handle many use cases, it does make some assumptions. If your use case doesn't fit into this chat implementation, it's good to remember that GenAI chat session is just a wrapper around generative model generate content. In addition to single requests, it can handle multi-turn conversations. Okay, the individual messages are GLM content objects or compatible dictionaries. Oh, you can just pass in the dictionary. That's very good. As seen in previous sections. Did we see that in previous sections? I went too fast. As a dictionary, the message requires role and parts keys. The role in a conversation can be the user, which provides the prompts, or model, which provides the responses. Pass a list of GLM content objects and it will be treated as a multi-turn chat. Okay, so this is a lot more similar to the OpenAI way. So I guess we might do that as well. So let's create another chat. This is hardchat.py. And let's copy the old chat here. And instead of creating a chat, let's just say that messages is a list. And this is the message. So then we have to say messages.append. And we are going to have to append a dictionary. I think I will just use the dictionary because the GLM is a bit complicated. So I'll just say role, which is user. And the text, the parts is going to be a list. And here we have the message. And then we can just do response equals model.generate content with the messages. And then we have to add the response as a model message. So this has to be model and the parts is the response.text. So this should do the same thing, basically. Let's see if that works. Python 3 hard chat. Hello, what is 1 plus 1? 2. What is 2 plus 3? What was my first question? Your first question was, what is 1 plus 1? Okay, so it works. Great. Now, Gemini also supports function calling, but I think it was not included in this Python library. So you actually have to use like basic curl or the requests library of Python if you want to use that. Let's scroll all the way down and see if there is something here. Okay, we can pass in a configuration here and we can set a candidate count. So if we want to have multiple different choices, then we can pass this in. But I've never used this even with the OpenAI API. And we can set the temperature and the max tokens and the stop sequences. Pretty cool. What's next? Let's try to integrate Gemini into one of my existing Python projects that use the OpenAI API. And since most of them use function calling, then let's implement function calling as well. Let's try first my GPT AI agent, which is a simple AI agent using the ChatGPT function calling feature. So I am going to clone this thing, git clone that. And in fact, I think this one still uses the old OpenAI Python library. So this wouldn't work right now because I have the newer version. But basically what this can do is it can write into files. And we have this getJokes function just as an example. But I can even remove this thing. Let's have just this write file. So basically we can write into files by chatting to this agent. And we're not using JSON in this example, so we can remove that too. And in this GPT functions file, we just have this function that actually does the writing into files. And then we have this function definition for the write file function. And then in the agent.py, we use the OpenAI API, we set the API key, and then we have a function to parse the function response from the message. And if we have the function, then we actually call that function. And then we just have this run conversations function that sends the chat completion to ChatGPT and passes in the functions here. And the rest of this code is just the simple chat implementation. So that's all the code, 75 lines. Now we are using a system message. I'm not sure if we can use that in Gemini. I did not see anything about system messages. System. No, there's nothing about a system message, but it might still work. And of course, we can just send it as a user message. So let's try and do that. So first of all, everywhere where we use system, we have to say user. And content needs to be, what was it called? Parts. And we have to pass in a list with the message. Okay? And here again, this is parts, and we are going to have the user message like this. And this one as well, parts, and we are going to do it this way. And this we have to figure out what is the message format for the function. So this is the message that we send back to ChatGPT telling that it called the function already. So let's figure out what that is. But we also have to do nothing else at the moment. Let's see how the function calling works in Gemini. Let's search for function calling. And here we have the article. And we have some curl examples somewhere. And basically they're using the OpenAPI compatible schema, which is almost OpenAI compatible schema as well, because they use the JSON schema. So we have to have the function name and the parameters and the description, which is in fact what we do here. Name, parameters, and description. And the required is there too. I saw it in their example. And they use this tools object as well. So they're kind of copying ChatGPT or OpenAI, which I guess is a good thing because it's easy to then upgrade from ChatGPT to Gemini. So here we have a single turn function calling example request with curl. So basically we set the content type to JSON, and then we send an object or dictionary with a contents key, which then has the role user and then the parts. So I guess this contents can be a list as well. So this is basically the chat history. And then we have this tools key, which is a list of a massive object. I'm not sure why this is wrapped in a list. Anyway, that's how it works. And this is exactly the same as OpenAI, but they just changed from functions to function declarations. So they were like, come on guys, we need to make it a little bit different than OpenAI, otherwise they're gonna complain. So let's try to implement this with the requests module of Python. Let's remove the OpenAI import and let's import requests. I have in fact never used requests, but it shouldn't be that difficult. And let's get the API key from Google API key, and let's just call it API key. And where are we actually sending the request? Here. So here we have to create a request. Let's ask ChatGPT how to use the requests library. How do I send a JSON request with the Python requests library? Okay, here's the example. We import requests, we have some data, we have the URL, we just post into the URL JSON data. Amazing. So let's do that. Response equals requests post into some URL, which I guess is going to be this. Let's copy that. And the key is going to be our API key. And the JSON is going to be some data. And let's create that data. So data is going to be an object, I guess it was. Okay, so we have contents and then we have tools. And this indentation is kind of off here, but we are going to have contents, which is something, and we are going to have tools, which is something. And tool, in fact, was a list for some reason. And then here we have an object that has function definitions. And this is going to be our GPT functions definitions. So it is going to be this array of definitions. And the contents is an object. I guess I can pass this as a list. And it's going to be the list of the messages. And I guess that's it. So we can remove this line. And because the response is JSON, then I guess when we call response.json, this will be an actual dictionary, right? Is this a dictionary? Yes. Great. So if response code, status code, is not 200, then let's just raise, how do I raise an error in Python? Error. Can I just say error? Type error, value error, lookup error, memory error, syntax error, system error, runtime error. I'm just going to print error, unable to make request. Sys exit 1. Of course, you should handle this properly in your specific use case, but right now I just want to test this out. And I guess we can just say response equals response.json. So this is now a dictionary. But what is in the dictionary? Let's take a look. So we send this, and what we get back is something. Hopefully here in the multi-turn function calling examples, we have, although, wait a minute, curl example that uses a function response from a previous turn. Okay, that's the request. But what is the response? The response to this curl example includes the result of calling the find theaters method. The response might be similar to the following. Okay, we have candidates, not choices. This is not OpenAI. We don't use choices, we have candidates. And it's not usage, it's usage metadata. Okay, so that means that we are going to have candidates, 0, contents, right? Or content, parts, text. Okay, so this is not any better than OpenAI. Just the library is better. Parts, text. Really? Candidates, 0, content, parts, text. Amazing. And that is the actual text. So we only need the content, right? No, because there's no role in this one. So we have to construct now the actual dictionary with the role, which is model, and the parts, which is an array. I mean, I guess we could use these parts directly. Should we do that? Maybe we should do that. So this is just the message. And actually parts is already a list. So we just pass in the message like that. But hey, where is the function in this? That's what I want to know. Was it here already? Of course. If I just read the documentation. So in the parts, we have a function call, which has a name and args. And that's interesting. It is actually already turned into JSON. Or like it's part of this JSON object that comes from here. Because with OpenAI, this is a string of JSON. That's actually a huge improvement. So that means we don't have to worry about invalid JSON. It can't be invalid JSON. So Google worries about that. But what we get is always valid JSON. That's great. So I'm guessing we have to add exactly this to the message history. So then Gemini knows it has called this function. And then when we actually run the function, so we parse the message to get the function name and the function response, and then we return this role function. But this is going to be what? This is going to be the actual response, which I guess is this, right? The response to this curl example includes the result of calling the find theaters method. Okay, so this is just the plain old response from our function that we called. So this doesn't have to be any particular format. So it is just role user, I guess. Or wait a minute, where's the role? There is no role here. Okay, there's a role here. Function call. Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah, I'm a bit confused right now. What is the okay, there's a role function. And there we have function response. Okay, here it is, right in front of my eyes. So this is what we have to construct now. We have a role, which is function, and we have a function response in the parts. So parts is this again, yes, it's a list of an object with function response like that. And there we have an object with the name of the function name. And we are going to have the response. And the response is also an object. And we have the name here again for some reason. And then the content is just whatever came from the function. I'm not sure if this has to be JSON or not. So let's put the name here again. Why do we have to have the name twice? And content is function response. And somewhere I'm missing something because we have some squigglies here. Of course I have to remove these. And, oh, I'm missing a colon here. Great. So that's it. It might be that this has to be a dictionary. But let's see our parse function response. Right now we get the function call from message function call. And we pass in here the parts, right? So the response will look like this. So in fact, we pass in the whole list. So we have to take 0 and function call. So here, this is message 0 function call. And then we get the name and args, which previously was arguments. It's so funny. Some things they make longer if they are short with OpenAI, and some things they make shorter if they are short with OpenAI. But we do not need to do JSON loads. It is just the args, because it's already a dictionary. And then we check if we have the function, then we call the function. Otherwise we say called unknown function. And that might work. Where are we using JSON? Just to save the messages, okay. So that should now work. Probably not the first try, but it's something like this. What am I actually returning from this function? I just return a string. So I might want to return like a status and just pass this as the text. And here also status. So at least now the response from the function is a dictionary. Let's run this thing and see if it works. Let's cd into GPT AI agent and let's run Python 3 agent.py. And it's still GPT, but we are connecting hopefully to Gemini. Create a simple hello world PHP script. Error. Unable to make request. So what was the error? Let us print the response. And I'm going to copy this. Response 400. Thank you very much. How do I get the actual text from it? Is there text? Is it like that? Okay, now we got some text. Invalid value. Contents 0, parts 0. This is an invalid value. And this is an invalid value as well. What? Invalid JSON payload received. unknown name function definitions at tools 0. Okay, function definitions. I think it was like this. No, it was this camel case, right? Function declarations. Okay, let's run it again. And we got still this error. For some reason, this is not valid. And required is invalid. Unknown name. Okay, I thought I saw somewhere required. There's a required. Why is it unknown name? Function declarations 0. Okay, let's remove it. Let's run it again. Okay, now we only have these two. Why is this invalid? Parts 0. Isn't that exactly how it should be? Let's take a look here. We have the text. It's not just the text. It is an object with text, which is then the text. Okay, let's fix this. Text, and where else? Here we have also text. And do we have one more somewhere? Here it's straight from the response, so that should be fine. And this one should be correct. And that's correct, and that's correct, and that's correct. Let's try one more time. Create a simple Hello World PHP script. Please ensure that multi-turn requests ends with a user role or a function response. Wait a minute. We get the user message. We convert it into this format. We pass it into run conversation. And actually, we have this messages.json. So what is in here? We have the system message as a user message. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you have to have alternating roles in there. So let's just inject this into the first, or can we just reply? I guess we can add this, and we can add the reply from the model, which is, okay, I'm ready. So now we should have user, model, user. Now we could inject it here. I guess we can say here like system message plus like a couple of new lines and the user message. And then we can just have this as the system message. Maybe that makes more sense. Messages is an empty list and system message is that. Let's run it again. Create a PHP script. An internal error occurred. Thanks. So apparently Gemini is just as bad as OpenAI. Let's try it one more time. Okay, I am doing this wrong. So we got a response, which is interesting, but I forgot to parse it the right way. So here the user message should come from the message, which is the parts. So it should be message 0 and text, right? User 0 text, right? Okay, let's try one more time. Create a simple Hello World PHP script. And we don't have text in there. Why don't we have text in there? Let's just print the message and okay. The problem is that it is not function call like this, it is function call like that. So we actually got a function call, but we went into this where we try to get the text, but we don't have the text in the function call, so it failed. So let's run it. And now we are going to get an error. Damn it. I'm just going to print the message. And the reason is this is message 0. Maybe I should call this like parts. Anyway, let's try to do this now. Now I have the extra print statement now here, but that's fine. Just for debugging. Called function write file. Do you want to write to helloworld.php? Yes, in fact I do. Thank you very much. Alright, I've created a simple PHP script called helloworld.php with the following contents. Hello world. Let us see what is in helloworld.php. What? Why? Why? Why would you do this to me? So what are the messages now? It added slashes to the thing. Okay. This is bad. This is very bad. Well, can I say, please write the whole code, including the starting PHP tag. And we did not call a function. We just said, sure, here's the code. So this is 0 for Gemini, 1 for ChatGPT. Let's actually verify. So I'm going to clone this project again. Git clone. Actually, let's go back. Git clone. And let's clone it to GPT version. And let's cd into GPT version. And this is made with the old OpenAI API. I don't want to update it right now. So I'm just going to say pip install OpenAI. And I think it's like 0.27.0. So now this should work. So if I now run Python 3 agent.py. This is now the ChatGPT version with GPT 3.5. So let's say write a simple hello world script. Is that exactly what I said? Should I copy the exact thing? Create a simple hello world PHP script. I want to write to hello.php. Yes, let's write it. I have created a simple hello world PHP script. You can find it in the file named hello.php, which is here. And look at this. We in fact have even a starting PHP tag and no slashes or anything. Update it to say hello world 7 times. Yes. And we are going to str repeat 7 times hello world. Use a for loop instead. Yes, I want to write it. And here it is with a for loop. So maybe Gemini needs a little bit more prompting to actually do this. But hey, at least it was pretty easy to convert from using OpenAI to Gemini. Let me know in the comments what would you like to see me do with the Gemini API. And if you have tried it yourself, let me know how it worked out. But this is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.